So getting into the specs of the Glock 47, it is going to be a striker-fired pistol chambered in 9mm. It has a polymer frame with a steel slide and barrel. Trigger pull weight is about 5.5 to 6 pounds, and the overall weight is going to be 23 ounces naked. For the overall dimensions of the gun, the length is going to be 7.95 inches, the width is going to be 1.34 inches, and the height is going to be 5.47 inches. It does have a Picatinny rail here at the bottom to mount weapon mounted lights, and the MSRP is $629.99. So now we're going to move into a little bit of what comes in the package. On the front here, you're going to get a hard case, and it has the Glock logo here on the front. You get 3 17-round magazines, a mag loader, a barrel swab, adjustable back straps, optic plate cover and Allen key, and the safety manual on the backside. And that is it. So moving on to our first category, which is going to be out of the box value. So for this category, I give this a 9 out of 10, while Brandon and Dom both gave this an 8 out of 10. And the reason why I gave this a 9 out of 10 is that it does come with everything you technically need. Like, I love how it comes with 3 magazines and adjustable back straps here, as you can see. But the one thing I will take off a point is going to be that it doesn't have a spot to have a lock on the case. It is going to be a hard case, which is a plus, but you're not able to lock anything and store it away safely.
So obviously my score is a little bit lower than Zach, so I gave it an 8 out of 10 instead of Brandon. I think both of us had the same consensus where we prefer having a range bag. So as you can see the case here, like, I'll even put the gun on top of it there, and you can even see the width. It's not very big. So other than the 3 mags and the gun itself, you really can't fit more than what's already in there. If you try to fit additional mag, the case isn't even going to close all the way. And you also can't fit like regular sized paper targets in there that you could bring to the range. I do prefer they have a setup like what Staccato has, or even like what SIG and Springfield does. I don't know if SIG does it, but I know Springfield has the range bags they offer with their gear up bundles. But like something like this, where you can actually fit more than one gun, you can fit probably like up to 10 magazines in this thing, and you can also fit like regular size paper targets in here. There's like flaps in here, so like there's like multiple layers. You can fit more than just the gun itself. And unfortunately, with the size of this case too, if you wanted to repurpose this for anything else other than storing a gun, it's not possible. So the next category we have is ergonomics, and this kind of entails of how user-friendly do they make the Glock. And for this category, we all gave it a 7 out of 10, and here's why. In terms of user-friendliness, it's not. So the first point we deducted is from the grip angle. While you can get used to it, in which we all did if you've seen any of our videos with the Glock, you do get used to having to point the gun at it. You obviously, like with a 2011 grip angle, it kind of points upwards, but you have to bring it down like this. So the problem with that is that when you go to any other platform, which almost any other platform on the market has more of that 1911 style grip angle. So then when you do pick up another gun, what's the first thing that happens is that you do tend to shoot the gun low. And then vice versa, if you are a person who shoots standard grip angles like a 1911 style, you shoot the Glock high. So you do get kind of training scars. You do get training scars with the Glock, and then everybody like who shoots a Glock doesn't want to switch to anything else, unfortunately, as that is. The next thing is the grip texture. If you look at that, it's basically braille. It's like not very aggressive, honestly. Like, this does not lock in very well, to be honest. I do hope in the Gen 6 Glock, if that ever happens, they fix that. Next thing is the slide serrations. They are not aggressive at all. Like, it's pretty hard to get those to grab onto your fingers. These serrations, honestly, probably more for looks. I mean, if they were meant to be functional, they'd probably make them more functional, right? Another negative thing about the Glock is that the grip is pretty thick. There are interchangeable back straps, but that only kind of changes the length and adds a extended beaver tail. But Brandon on the channel, he has relatively small hands, and fortunately for how thick the grip is and reaching these side controls here, it's pretty difficult for him, and he does have to break grip to hit these side controls and hit the mag release as well. I know a lot of Glock boys are no longer listening because of all the bad things we've already said about Glocks, because Glock's perfection is perfect and you can't say anything bad about it. But the grip angle, I know we kind of hounded on that and how it kind of sucks and creates training scars and no one wants to move off the Glock platform. But of course, the benefit of that is that it locks your wrists. And then there's something we noticed about the grip angle that, for me and Zach at least, with our wrist flexibility, that it actually helps us keep our wrists locked and allows us to shoot the gun pretty flat. And of course, the reason why they have the grip angle, it does help create a lower bore axis. That is something on the ergonomics that is good about the Glock.
Next category is going to be about the trigger. So for this one, we all gave it a 7 out of 10. Pretty obvious reasons. It's pretty well known that Glock does not have too great of a trigger. Just talk about that a little more. That the Glocks actually have about a 5.5-ish pound trigger, give or take. I have heard people have much higher than that, more like 6 to 6.5. I've heard some people say that after it gets broken in, it comes down to more like a 4.5-ish pound trigger. But the biggest issue that I have with the Glocks in general is the fact that if you own multiple Glocks, you'll realize that none of them actually have the same trigger. I mean, it's on the 47 that we have here today. This is not the Glock Performance trigger. This is just the standard Glock trigger that you get out of the box. You'll notice here that there is a blade safety trigger, and there is a lot of takeout before you even get to a wall. You see all that right there? I will say the safety is really easy to defeat, but the travel it takes to get to the first wall is pretty far. And I'll just go through the whole trigger press with you here, little by little, adding more and more pressure. There it is. And it breaks all the way towards the rear. Do a quick reset here. And it's a pretty far travel before it actually resets. And you're ready for another follow-up shot. Again, a rolling brake. With that setup, I think with it being heavy, on top of that having a little too much over travel, just kind of really makes it a bad trigger. Just a quick note though, you can get very proficient with just normal Glock trigger. There's plenty of guys out there that are performing at a very high level with just a stock Glock just like this. No merit to them whatsoever. They obviously are very good shooters, but to the average shooter like us, having a trigger like this definitely makes shooting in general a lot more difficult. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter when it comes to your trigger as long as you are out there training. You can absolutely shoot at a high level with the Glock, but if you have the option to have a better trigger, wouldn't you want one?
So moving on to our next category, which is going to be sights and optics. And for this category, the three of us actually gave this a 9 out of 10. The reason being is that, so just a little breakdown, we do divide this category into 2 parts, which is going to be 5 points for the irons and 5 points for the actual optic system for red dots. And for the irons, it is going to be your standard Glock sights, which are going to have a U-notch here on the back side and a white dot in the front. And then moving to the optic's going to be sitting on an MOS plate, which stands for Modular Optic System, and it is going to be an RMR footprint. We do have the Holosun 507 comp here, and the reason why we did take off a point is because you can't direct mount any optic here to the slide. You do have to use the MOS plate, and just gives it another point of failure if you were to add anything between the optic and the slide.
Next category we have is the magazines, and for this we all gave it a 10 out of 10. So obviously the magazines are plastic. Magazines, first of all, are kind of like disposable items and wear and tear, so having it be plastic really isn't that big of an issue for us. And not only that, so far after like thousands of rounds through our Glock magazines, we've had no issues. We haven't had like the magazines explode on us like the Springfield ones. We dropped these on the ground fully loaded and haven't had any issues with the base plate popping off on us. And not only that, they're cheap, but the base Glock mags have been pretty reliable for us. The round indicators are only from 5 to 17. I wish it would start at like maybe 3 or 4, because you kind of have to second guess yourself just a little bit, but that really wasn't that big of an issue for us to probably take off a full point. But basically, plain and simple, the magazines have been working pretty well for us despite being plastic, and they're relatively cheap. And that kind of forces why we all give it a 10 out of 10.
Next category is going to be felt recoil, and for this one, we all gave it a 9 out of 10. Surprisingly, maybe Glock has some kind of like black magic voodoo stuff, but in their firearms, they do shoot pretty soft. We actually recently did a review, or comparison that is, between the Scout HD P4 versus a Glock 45, and we were quite surprised that they came out to be pretty similar in felt recoil. And the Glock 47 actually has the same recoil system as the Glock 45, but with the additional length to the ½ inch there for the barrel, it makes it shoot that much softer. Now combo all that with the low bore axis that Glock naturally has with that grip angle. We talked a lot of bad stuff about the grip angle not being a very natural point of aim for us, but they do have something figured out with allowing you to get that super low bore axis that grip angle gives you, making this a super soft shooting firearm. We were all quite surprised by it, reason why we gave it all a 9 out of 10.
So moving on to the next category is going to be weapon handling. The three of us actually gave this an 8 out of 10. So we did put 1,000 rounds through this firearm, and let's tell you a couple of things that we did notice. The slide serrations, we did take off a point for them is because they're not as aggressive and they're very slippery. One thing that we did think that Glock should have done is either create more for the back here for less slipping or make them a lot more aggressive. And the other thing we noticed is that the grip texture is not that good. It is not aggressive whatsoever. So here in Iowa, we got to take this out during like 100-degree weather, very humid, very hot, and this gun was jumping out of our hands quite a bit. We do wish that Glock would have made the grip texture a little bit higher as well, so that when we do get a higher purchase on the gun, hopefully it doesn't slip. But there are some positives about the weapon handling, is that the ambidextrous slide controls are pretty nice for you lefties out there. So you do have a slide release here on the left side as you do on the right side, and the magazine release is ambidextrous as well, pseudo, so you're able to swap the left side to the right side. This gun does not come with a flared mag well, but as you can see here, it is a little flared on the inside, and we didn't have too many issues with reloading without the flared mag well, but I do think that adding a flared mag well for a full-size gun would help in the future.
So the next category is comfort and concealability. Brandon and I gave it a 7 out of 10, while Zach gave it an 8 out of 10. So the reason why we dropped some points is it's a full-size gun. If you look at here, it's not necessarily the smallest gun in the world. It's pretty thick. It definitely weighs like a full-size gun. And when it comes to what you wear for the gun, you definitely have to be a little bit more cautious, as it does have a full-length grip, and the grip is pretty thick. You definitely need to be more wary when it comes to printing because of the Glock grip, as it's thicker and it's longer. I mean, if you can see here that with the grip length, I definitely have extra pinky room, which that's kind of like almost the same length, I believe, as the Staccato HD that we reviewed in the past. So it's something just to be wary about. And of course, the weight. It's not that much weight by itself, but when you have it fully loaded, when you're running it concealed carry in a holster, it's definitely going to weigh a lot more. And as you can see, the holster is not the smallest either. This is actually our non-light bearing version, which we actually got from QVO Tactical. And if you are curious about getting this holster for yourself, we have a discount code 9to510 you can use upon checkout to save yourself some money. If you are going to run a full-size light for your full-size Glock, this is kind of what you would get. So this is a Tier 1 Apex holster, and this is a holster that holds a Surefire X300, and you can see how much real estate that is going to take up. So when it comes to concealing this appendix inside the waistband, you definitely notice it a lot more than if you're going to carry like a X macro size gun, or even like the bodyguard that we have on the channel. So of course this is not going to be as comfortable as carrying a compact or subcompact pistol because of all the real estate, the weight, and of course you do have to dress around the gun a lot more. Where it is actually the negative attributes become a positive is the grip texture. So something about the grip texture here not being that aggressive, it's actually pretty comfy to wear inside the waistband because it's not rubbing away your tummy. And when I carry the Staccato XC like I used to, which I don't really do that anymore because the comfort is that I would actually get a rash right here. And because grip texture sucks, it actually is pretty comfy to carry. But it's not all bad, you know. The Glock has no beaver tail, barely any beaver tail. That depends on of course, the backstrap that you're gonna run. But because it's like this flat and smooth rounded edge, it's actually not that sharp. So when it comes to bending over, picking up things, or tying your shoe, or dropping the soap, it's pretty easy to do.
Next category is going to be aftermarket support. For this one, we all gave it a 9 out of 10 for obvious reasons. I mean, it is a Glock. Glock kind of opened the market. Kind of the first ones actually bring in all the different support from aftermarket, from all different companies. You can swap out the trigger, you get a stipple job, pretty much fix all the things wrong with the Glock from factory. But we did take 1 point off for one only reason. It's just by design, you can't swap out the polymer grip to a metal one like how you can in other platforms. People may see that as unfair, but that's just the reality of it. If you want a metal grip for a Glock, you can't do that buying a Glock.
Moving on to the last category is going to be price. Dominic and I gave this a 9 out of 10, while Brandon gave this a 10 out of 10. And the reason why I did take off a point is just because, yes, the Glock 47 has a durability and reliability standpoint with the DLC coating and on the barrel and slides, but we did review other guns in the past like the MOP 2.0. I did give it a 10 out of 10 for the price point. For the shootability part, is that for the Glock 47, I feel like I would need to add more modifications to this gun to have it perform just as well as the MOP 2.0.
I don't think we actually mentioned this this earlier, but this is actually a gun we bought with our own money. So this is actually my personal carry, and I did give this a 9 out of 10, kind of like Zach. The reason why is, well, we've reviewed other striker fired guns on our channel, such as the MFB 2.0, Echelon, Walther PDP Compact. It's basically a full-size gun with a compact grip. But in terms of kind of what you get for shootability performance, I feel like the Glock is severely lacking, such as the sight serrations are basically not that usable, the grip texture sucks, the trigger kind of sucks, and what you're really paying for is the Glock reliability and durability. Like I think Brandon gave it a 10 out of 10 because it's actually DLC coded, which honestly at this price point for getting DLC coding is pretty good. But for me, I think in terms of shooter performance and what helps a shooter, I think the Glock is severely lacking in the market and the making of this video in August 2025. That's kind of why I gave it a point deduction. It is still my gun. I still like running it. I think all of us can shoot this gun pretty well. Regardless of what it's lacking in the market of 2025, I still think it's a pretty good gun for what you're paying for.
So that is it for our categories. Our total scores, for myself, I gave this an 85 out of 100. Brandon gave this an 84 out of 100, and Dom gave this an 83 out of 100. And that averages out to 84 out of 100. So that is it for our 1000 review over the Glock 47. If you guys liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification to stay up to date with the latest content. We make new videos every single week. And also leave a comment down below if you guys want us to check out any other guns. We have many guns, and we'd love to add to our collection of just kind of review as many as we can. Make sure you guys get out to the range so you guys can get good and stay good, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.